You know what's funny about surveillance? People think they're watching you, but they're really just watching a performance. My company required cameras on for the entire workday, 8 hours, every day, to maintain team connectivity and ensure productivity. So I gave them exactly what they wanted, a video feed of me working diligently at my desk. For 6 months, they watched me type, take notes, nod thoughtfully, and occasionally sip coffee. Except it was a loop. A carefully crafted 47-minute video that played on repeat while I was actually at the gym, running errands, or taking naps. They wanted surveillance. I gave them theater. And when they finally discovered it, I had 6 months of perfect performance reviews proving the camera requirement was completely pointless. The setup, the remote work crackdown. My name is Drew, and I'm a senior data analyst at TechBridge Solutions, a software company that went fully remote during the pandemic. About 400 employees, distributed across 12 states. And for 2 years, it worked beautifully. Productivity was up. Costs were down. Employee satisfaction was high. We'd proven that remote work wasn't just viable, it was better. Then we got a new chief operating officer, Raymond Fletcher. Late 50s, old school management philosophy. Believed that if he couldn't see you working, you weren't working. His first company-wide meeting set the tone. I know many of you have enjoyed the flexibility of remote work, Raymond said. His video feed showing him in a corner office that screamed, I'm important. But flexibility without accountability leads to complacency. Starting next month, we're implementing new remote work standards to ensure we maintain our corporate culture and productivity. New standards. That sounded ominous. The email came 2 days later. Remote work accountability guidelines. I opened it with dread. The key requirements. Cameras must be on during all working hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Video feed subject to random monitoring by management. Screen sharing available on demand. Activity tracking software to be installed on all work computers. Daily check-in meetings at 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Immediate response required to all manager messages within 5 minutes. This wasn't remote work. This was surveillance theater disguised as accountability. The company's Slack exploded with complaints. This is micromanagement. Camera on for 8 hours? That's invasive. Are they serious about the 5-minute response requirement? This defeats the entire purpose of remote work. Raymond's response came in another email. These requirements are non-negotiable. Employees who cannot comply with remote work standards are welcome to discuss in-office alternatives or other arrangements. Translation, comply or quit. Most people complied. They needed their jobs. So they turned on their cameras, installed the tracking software, and submitted to 8 hours of daily surveillance. I complied too. Sort of. Phase 1, the analysis. I spent the first week under the new system doing exactly what they asked. Camera on, working visibly at my desk, responding immediately to messages. It was exhausting and degrading. Not because I was actually working more, but because I was performing work for an audience instead of just doing it. I found myself making exaggerated typing motions so the camera would catch me being productive, nodding visibly during video calls, making sure my face showed appropriate expressions of concentration and engagement. It wasn't work. It was theater. And I started noticing something. Nobody was actually watching the camera feeds in real time. They couldn't be. We had 400 employees. Even if every manager spent their entire day watching feeds, they couldn't monitor everyone. So I ran an experiment. On Wednesday, I put a still image of myself as my virtual background in Zoom. Not a video loop, just a static photo of me at my desk. Nobody said anything. All day, 8 hours of a frozen image, and not a single comment. On Thursday, I tried something bolder. I recorded a 10-minute video of myself working, typing, reading, occasionally looking thoughtful. Then I played it on loop using virtual camera software. Still nothing. No questions, no comments. By Friday, I understood. This wasn't about actual monitoring. This was about control. The appearance of surveillance to make employees feel watched, whether anyone was actually watching or not. And if it was about appearance, I could work with that. Phase 2, creating the loop. I spent the weekend creating something I called the performance. I recorded myself for 47 minutes doing typical work activities, typing at varying speeds, including realistic pauses, reading documents on screen, eyes tracking naturally, taking notes with pen and paper, sipping coffee 3 times during the loop, stretching slightly in my chair, looking thoughtful and occasionally nodding, brief moments of slight movement, shifting position, adjusting glasses. I chose 47 minutes because it's not an obvious interval, not 30 minutes, not an hour. Something slightly irregular that wouldn't create obvious repetition patterns. I edited carefully, made sure lighting was consistent, removed any time stamps or other identifying details that would make the loop obvious. added subtle variations in my position and expression. The result was remarkably natural. If you weren't paying close attention, and I'd established that nobody was, it looked like a live feed of someone working normally. I also created 3 alternate versions with slightly different activities and angles, so I could rotate them and avoid anyone noticing identical patterns. Then I set up the technical infrastructure. Virtual camera software allowed me to feed pre-recorded video as my camera input to Zoom and Teams. Automated response system, a script that monitored my Slack and email for manager messages and sent automated. I'm looking into that, or let me check on that, responses, then sent me mobile alerts so I could provide actual responses within the required 5-minute window. Screen Content Generator, a program that occasionally changed what was visible on my screen share, different documents, spreadsheets, code editors, all realistic work content, all pre-generated. Activity Tracker Simulator, software that generated realistic mouse movements and keyboard activity for the tracking software management had installed. Everything was automated. Everything looked legitimate. And it all ran on my work computer while I was not there. Phase 3, the test run. Monday morning, I started the performance. At 7:55 a.m., I logged into my computer, started all the automation systems, positioned my pre-recorded video loop as my camera feed, and joined the daily 8 a.m. check-in meeting. Then I went to the gym. I'd set up my phone to monitor everything remotely. I could see my video feed, watch for alerts, respond to urgent messages if needed. The 8 a.m. meeting went perfectly. My video loop showed me sitting attentively at my desk. I'd pre-recorded a few audio responses like, "Sounds good," and "I'm on track with my projects" that I triggered manually from my phone during appropriate moments. Nobody noticed anything unusual. After the meeting, I stayed at the gym. Full workout, shower, leisurely breakfast at the coffee shop next door. My automated systems maintained perfect appearances. My camera showed me working diligently. My activity tracker registered normal keyboard and mouse activity. My automated response system handled routine check-ins. At 11 a.m., I went home and actually started working. Did my real work for about 4 hours, analytical reports, data modeling, actually productive work that didn't require performance theater. At 4:15 p.m., I returned to my desk physically, stopped the loop, and joined the 4:30 p.m. check-in meeting with my real camera. "How was your day, Drew?" my manager asked. "Productive," I said honestly. "Got through my entire task list." "Great. You looked focused all day on the camera checks I did." "Camera checks?" He thought he'd been watching me work all day. He'd been watching a loop. Perfect. Phase 4, the routine. Over the next week, I refined the system and established a routine. 7:55 a.m. Start work computer, launch automation systems, begin video loop 8 a.m. Daily check-in meeting, remote participation from my phone. 8:15 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Gym, errands, personal time, monitoring phone for urgent issues. 11:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Actual work at my desk, camera loop still running. 4 p.m. Return to desk, stop loop. Prepare for checkout meeting 4:30 p.m. Daily checkout meeting, real camera. My actual productive work happened during those 4 to 5 afternoon hours. Turns out, when you're not performing for a camera and responding to constant check-ins, you can accomplish a full day's work in half the time. The rest of the day, I was living my life. Working out, running errands, learning new skills, spending time with family. And the performance reviews kept getting better. Drew is consistently visible and engaged throughout the workday. Always responsive and appears focused on tasks. Exemplary adherence to remote work guidelines. They were literally praising me for the quality of my video loop. Phase 5, the expanded operation. After a month of running this system flawlessly, I started getting more ambitious. I created seasonal variations of my video loops to match changing daylight through my window. Updated my background slightly every few weeks to match how my actual office changed. I even created meeting mode loops where I appeared to be on other video calls, nodding and occasionally appearing to speak, with audio muted, of course. The automation systems got more sophisticated. Intelligent response system, machine learning-based tool that could read incoming messages and generate contextually appropriate preliminary responses. For routine questions, it handled everything. For complex issues, it flagged me for real responses. Calendar integration. My system automatically adjusted based on my calendar. If I had a real meeting scheduled, it would alert me 5 minutes before. If I had blocks marked as focus time, it would generate appropriate screen content showing deep work. Sentiment analysis. The system monitored my manager's messages for urgency keywords and tone, alerting me immediately if something seemed critical. I also started helping other frustrated coworkers. "How are you handling the camera requirement?" my colleague Maya asked during a real one-on-one video call. "Honestly, I'm not." "What do you mean?" I explained the system. Her eyes went wide. That's genius. And completely insane. It's proving a point. They're not actually monitoring us. They just want the appearance of control. I'm giving them the appearance while taking back my actual autonomy. Could you help me set something up? I helped Maya, then 3 other coworkers. We formed a quiet alliance. The people who were technically complying with every surveillance requirement while actually doing whatever we wanted. Our work quality didn't suffer. In fact, it improved. Turns out, happy employees who aren't being surveilled like criminals produce better work. Phase 6, the close calls. Month 3, I had my first real scare. My manager scheduled an unexpected one-on-one meeting in the middle of the day. 5 minutes notice. I was at the grocery store. My phone buzzed. Drew joining our scheduled one-on-one. Scheduled? I checked my calendar. Someone had added a meeting without sending me a notification. I had 3 minutes to get home. I lived 8 minutes away. I made a decision. I found a quiet corner of the store, put in my earbuds, and joined the meeting from my phone using my real camera. Hey Drew, can you share your screen? Want to walk through your analytics dashboard? My screen, which was currently showing my video loop feed on my work computer at home. Give me 1 second, my screen share is glitching. Let me restart. I quickly remote accessed my work computer from my phone, stopped the loop, pulled up my actual work dashboard, then joined from my computer. Okay, screen sharing now. Crisis averted. But it was a close call. I upgraded my system after that. Added remote kill switch functionality. If I needed to immediately stop the loop and take over from anywhere, I could do it in under 10 seconds. Phase 7, the company audit. Month 4 brought an interesting development. The company hired an external consulting firm to audit remote work productivity and the effectiveness of the new monitoring systems. The auditors wanted to interview a sample of remote workers about their experience with the new requirements. I was selected for an interview. The auditor, a professional woman named Sarah, asked direct questions. How do you find the camera on requirement? It's definitely made me more conscious of maintaining professional appearance throughout the day. True. My video loop maintained perfect professional appearance. Does it affect your productivity? I think it's helped me stay more focused and accountable. Also true. Knowing I needed to produce actual results to justify my arrangement definitely kept me focused during my real work hours. Do you feel the monitoring is excessive? I chose my words carefully. I think the intention is good, maintaining team connectivity. But I wonder if the company is getting the results they intended. Sometimes surveillance can create the appearance of productivity without measuring actual outcomes. Interesting. Can you elaborate? Well, someone could be on camera all day, looking busy, but not actually producing quality work. Conversely, someone could be highly productive but not performing their productivity in visible ways. The camera sees activity, not results. Sarah took notes. That's a very thoughtful perspective. After my interview, she interviewed about 30 other employees. The audit results came back 6 weeks later. Phase 8, the audit results. The consulting firm's report was damning for Raymond's surveillance system. Key findings. Productivity metrics. No measurable improvement in actual work output since implementing camera requirements. In some cases, slight decline. Employee satisfaction, sharp decrease. Remote work satisfaction dropped from 87% to 43%. Retention risk. 34% of remote employees actively looking for other jobs specifically because of surveillance requirements. Monitoring effectiveness. Analysis of manager viewing patterns showed camera feeds were rarely actively monitored. Average viewing time, for minutes per employee per week. For minutes per week. They were requiring 40 hours of camera on time per week and watching an average of 4 minutes. The report's conclusion. The camera monitoring system is creating employee dissatisfaction and retention risk without measurably improving productivity or providing meaningful oversight. The company is spending significant resources maintaining a surveillance infrastructure that is neither effective nor necessary. The recommendation. Return to output-based performance management rather than activity monitoring. Raymond was furious. Tried to discredit the report. Argued that the camera requirement was about culture and accountability, not just productivity. But the data was clear. His surveillance system was failing by every measurable standard. The CEO made a decision. The camera requirement would be reduced to required for meetings only starting next month. We'd won. Sort of. Phase 9, the confession. After the policy change was announced, I kept my loop system running for 2 more weeks. Just to prove I could. Just to make the point that for 6 months, they'd been watching theater instead of actual work. Then I did something risky. I told my manager the truth. I requested a one-on-one meeting. Real camera this time. I need to be honest with you about something, I began. He looked concerned. What's up? For the past 6 months, I haven't been on camera during the workday. I've been playing a pre-recorded video loop. Long silence. His expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and anger. You've been what? Playing a video loop. The camera feed you've been seeing wasn't live. It was a recording I made that played on repeat. That's a violation of company policy. That's dishonest. Is it? Let me show you something. I pulled up my performance metrics. 6 months of data. My productivity has been consistently at or above target. My work quality scores are higher than ever. Client satisfaction with my deliverables is at 94%. I've completed every project on time or early. I've exceeded every measurable performance standard. But you weren't actually on camera. No, I wasn't. But tell me, did my absence from the live camera feed affect my work output in any measurable way? He stared at the metrics. Couldn't argue with them. Did you ever notice it was a loop? I asked. No. Did any manager notice? In 6 months? Apparently not. That proves my point. The camera requirement wasn't about monitoring work. It was security theater. You weren't actually watching the feeds meaningfully. I could have been doing anything. And as long as the camera showed what looked like work, nobody noticed. Drew, I don't know what to say. I should write you up for this. You could. But ask yourself, what am I actually guilty of? Producing excellent work without performing that work in a visually observable way? If I'd been in the office, you wouldn't have been watching me work every second. You'd be judging me by output, which is exactly what happened here. Long pause. How many other people are doing this? He asked. I don't know, but I know the audit showed that the camera system wasn't effective. Maybe that's because people found ways around it. Or maybe it's because surveillance doesn't actually improve work quality. Why are you telling me this now? Because the policy is changing anyway. And because I wanted to make a point. You gave me perfect performance reviews for 6 months while I was playing a video loop. That should tell you something about what actually matters for evaluating remote work performance. The aftermath. My manager didn't write me up. I think he was too embarrassed that he'd been fooled for 6 months. He did have a conversation with me about trust and honesty. I listened respectfully, then pointed out that the company had initiated a relationship based on distrust and surveillance, and I'd responded in kind. If you treat employees like they can't be trusted, they'll act accordingly. The camera requirement was officially reduced to meetings only. The activity tracking software was removed. Remote work policies returned to output-based management. Raymond quietly left the company 3 months later. The surveillance systems were his initiative, and when they failed, he lost credibility. I'm still at TechBridge Solutions. Still remote. Still producing excellent work. But now I do it without performing for a camera. Without automation systems and video loops. Just actual work, evaluated by actual results. Several colleagues have asked me about the performance. I've told a few close friends the full story. It's become legendary in our remote work circles. Drew ran a video loop for 6 months and nobody noticed. Some people think it was unethical, that I violated company trust. I think the company violated our trust first by implementing surveillance theater disguised as accountability. The final word. Here's what I learned. Surveillance culture creates adversarial relationships between employers and employees. When you treat people like they can't be trusted, they stop trusting you back. When you require performance theater instead of actual results, people will give you theater. They required cameras on for 8 hours a day. Not because they had any intention of actually monitoring those feeds. They didn't have the resources or attention span for that. They required it because they wanted control, wanted employees to feel watched, even if nobody was watching. So I gave them exactly what they asked for, a camera feed showing me working diligently. For 6 months, they watched me type, take notes, and sip coffee. Except it was a 47-minute loop. And my actual work? Still excellent. Still on time. Still exceeding standards. Because the camera was never about work quality. It was about control. Was it dishonest? Maybe. Was it justified? They created a system based on distrust and surveillance. I proved that their system didn't actually work while maintaining excellent work performance. Was it satisfying? Watching Raymond's surveillance infrastructure get dismantled because it failed every audit metric? Absolutely. Now I work remotely based on actual outputs and results. No camera requirements beyond real meetings. No activity tracking. No 5-minute response mandates. Just work. Real work. Evaluated by real metrics. And somewhere on my backup drive, I still have those video loops. 47 minutes of me typing, nodding, and sipping coffee. The performance that proved surveillance theater is just that, theater. They required camera on for 8 hours. I played a loop for 6 months. And they never noticed because they were never really watching. Some surveillance is about security. Some surveillance is about control. And some surveillance is about appearance. Mine was definitely about appearance. And appearances, as it turns out, are easy to fake.